Thursday night game. This was a thrilling game. The Giants faced Washington, and Washington beat the Giants 30-29 on a game-winning field goal that should have never even happened because Dustin Hopkins missed the first one. Dexter Lawrence was offsides, and then he nailed the second one. Joe Judge, post-game, said, I'm not going to blame Dexter Lawrence for that game. I think I have it in quotations exactly what he said. He said, I'm not going to put this on Dexter Lawrence. He's a great teammate. He's a great locker room guy. He works his butt off. This wasn't just on one guy. He can say that all he wants, but we know that, of course, the Giants had a bunch of miscues. Darius Slayton dropped catch. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence going off sides. And then the hold on a receiver that's low on the depth chart that I don't even know his name on that, Daniel Jones, could have been rushing touchdown. But that one play did cost the Giants the game. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't happen, if he just stays still, the Giants win this game. And Dustin Hopkins, I was telling my dad when I was watching the game, he's an inconsistent kicker. He can kick well, but he's inconsistent. I don't know if he's going to make it, and he missed the first one. But this was a thrilling game. Daniel Jones had a lot to prove. He played very well. And the big story, in my opinion, in this game was Taylor Heinicke. He became a fan favorite in Washington after he performed great against Tampa Bay. They got Fitzpatrick. He was a starter. But now that he's down, Taylor Heinicke stepped in and played somewhat well against the Chargers. And I guess the question people are asking right now, Washington fans.
Last week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I guess the question people are asking right now, Washington fans at least, is did they find their answer at quarterback with Taylor Heinicke? And
it's such a loaded question, man.
And what do you feel about just the game in general and how events transpired? I'll start with you, Drew.
So I'm just going to talk about the game first before I go into Heinicke. Well, Daniel Jones played just as good as Heinicke. In my opinion, he outperformed Heinicke even though he did lose. Unfortunately, Darius Slayton did drop that ball. He did have that holding call that brought back his touchdown that would have put him over 100 rushing yards on top of the 250 passing yards that he already had. Who knows how it would have worked out. Maybe he would have had less because of the rushing touchdown. But regardless of that, this was one of the more perfect games I've seen out of Daniel Jones. Perfect, quote-unquote, obviously. Didn't have the perfect passer rating. But for his standards, he was passing the ball effectively, putting in spots that only his receivers can make a play. Sterling Shepard showed out. Kenny Golladay actually got it going for a little bit. But still want to see him break out. Obviously, only 3 receptions, 38 yards. Not that great, especially for a guy you paid.
William Jackson locked him up.
He did lock him up. But that being said, William Jackson got burnt on that deep touchdown. I'm blanking on who.
On Slayton.
Yeah, exactly.
Slayton
Facts. But Slayton is a burner-type wide receiver who just can get open downfield.
Kenny Golladay, he had 3 instances that I counted where he dropped the ball. I mean, that's what they say he did, but it was William Jackson that knocked it loose.
Well, there was one in particular that I just thought Daniel Jones lasered it in right to Golladay, hit right off his hand.
Yeah,
he dropped it. Yeah. But it was definitely a hard-thrown pass, and maybe Daniel should have took some heat off. But you're a primetime receiver. You need to make that grab. Now, to talk about Washington, Heinicke looked pretty damn good yesterday, too, other than the one Bradberry pick. And if I'm being real, that Bradberry pick was more on Bradberry than it was on Heinicke. Heinicke made a good read. Bradberry's break on the ball was spectacular. And Bradberry was getting beat all game long by Terry. And I actually, in one of my fantasy leagues,
Terry,
I'm a little upset. I sat Terry McLaurin for Leonard Fournette and Jamar Chase. Well, last week, he was mediocre, and I guess that the Chargers secondary is solid. But Bradberry's like that. And last season, he locked up McLaurin. So I was expecting a part 2, but yikes, he burned me. But regardless of that, as a whole, Washington looks solid. The run game, really, they didn't really need to run that much because the passing game was just whatever they wanted they could do. J.D. McKissick showed out, another person that you can't really count out on this offense as much as we think that Gibson's going to be the guy. McKissick's still going to get his love. Logan Thomas had a decent impact, 5 for 45, not that bad. Humphreys with 7 receptions. That's something that probably is going to continue because he's that slot guy. Heinicke was making the smart play. At one point, he was 16 for 20 early in this game. But this speaks more so to the Giants' defense right now. The Giants' defense right now is not it. And surprisingly, going into the season, I had them as a top 10 defense, probably the way that they played last year. The defense carried them for a good portion of the season. They have majority of the guys that they had last year, added Adoree Jackson to this mix. And Adoree Jackson played well yesterday too, But at the same time, as a whole, this defense is not clicking. They're not really getting to the quarterback. It's allowing the QB to have a lot of time to make whatever pass he wants. The corners haven't looked all too great. Logan Ryan has been all right, making a lot of tackles, but not stopping the ball from getting to the wide receiver. And to get to Heinicke, he had a very great game. But to say they found the quarterback for the future, I'm not willing to say that yet. He had an amazing showing. I would give him a pretty solid showing against the Buccaneers, obviously, given the fact that he had no real preparation for the game, kind of got thrown into the line of fire, played very well. And now in his first real start in the regular season against a solid, quote-unquote, solid defense, he did his thing, throwing for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. And again, that interception, I'm putting it more in Bradberry making an impressive play. But to say that he found the quarterback of the future is a lot right now.
I don't like the way you put those air quotations over the Giants defense. I know that they didn't play their best game, but
against the Broncos too, we lit them up.
They're a formidable defense.
They just haven't been playing like what they should.
They're a formidable defense.
Two games into the season, I have concerns.
I think Heinicke playing good against them is a credit more to Heinicke than to the Giants' bad defense. I actually had to check you on what you said because you said Terry got locked up last year by James Bradberry. Last year, 7 receptions, 74 yards. Then his second matchup, 7 receptions, 115 yards, a touchdown.
But on Bradberry.
I don't know what the matchup numbers were exactly.
They showed it during the game last night.
Okay. I don't know what the match numbers are, but I know that Terry had great games against the Giants.
Here, then I'll look at while you give your...
I think the Washington football team did find the quarterback in Taylor Heinicke, and it's more about.
I'm laughing before you even say anything.
No, I know.
Last show I'm not expecting anything. This guy Heinicke stinks.
Because I never said he stunk, but
you said you wasn't believing. No,
I said I didn't believe in him because I had to see more. And versus the Chargers when he came in, I didn't think he made too many good plays, but having a week, not even a week, a short week to really get these reps in and then go play the Giants at home. I just think there's something to say about a team believing in you and your wide receiver having as much faith as Terry does in Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke, I think, should have been the starter all year. I know Fitz was supposed to, kind of bring this team together, but Heinicke has shown that he's not just going to be an Alex Smith that's conservative in the pocket. He's going to take shots. And watching his post-game interview, watching how he interacted with fans after the game and they had cameras on him to, showcase that, I felt like, wow, Taylor Heinicke, what a great story. I think I feel like what we all expected Taysom Hill to be is what Heinicke's going to be. People thought Taysom Hill was going to be the starter after Breeze was gone and he was going to have this triumphant career. I think that's what Taylor Heinicke's going to be right now. 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. 99.6 quarterback rating. And in the fourth quarter, he played his best football. The Giants go down and kick a field goal. And then in 16 seconds, not even in 17 seconds, 56-yard pass to McKissick. Then an insane touchdown pass to Seals Jones. 2 plays, 17 seconds, and then Heinicke scores. Then the next possession, the Giants ends up as a punt because Slayton drops the ball. Washington gets it back. And I just felt like his fourth quarter was amazing. And to lead a game-winning comeback against a division opponent, I think this game was a must-win game, speaks volumes.
Agreed.
Chase Young, after the Tampa Bay game, was pointing at the back of his jersey and saying, this guy's the guy. Terry McLaurin doing the same thing. The fact that this entire team is rallying around Heinicke, I think, speaks volumes. I'm not going to speak on 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, but I just think he is their starting quarterback this season. He's the future for them this season, and they should ride this Taylor Heinicke wave because I think it's more than just a short stint. I think it's more than just a Kyle Allen 5-0 run in Carolina a couple years ago. I think this is legit. And Taylor Heinicke, I tweeted it yesterday during the game. I said Taylor Heinicke looks like at Dane's Russ Wilson. When I saw Taylor Heinicke, I said, wow, this looks a lot like a Russell Wilson, especially that pass to Seals Jones to take that risk. to put the ball where only he can get it.
Agreed.
I thought that was next level special. That fourth quarter was awesome, and I do think Heinicke should remain the starter, and I think he is their starter at quarterback for the remainder of the season, and this guy has an amazing story. I can't speak enough about it.
I'm going to pump the brakes on the Heinicke. I think, you saying he's going to be the future for this season, he should be the starter. I agree. I think I feel like the Tampa Bay game should have solidified him as a starter, but now this game only puts him further in that conference that he should definitely be the starter for them. For the Giants, I think they lost this game more than Washington won it. I feel like they was in control most of this game's mistakes, penalties, bad decisions just throughout this whole game. Like you said, Dexter Lawrence getting that offsides. That was his fault. Darius Slayton, the drop pass, another thing that could have put them up. The penalty that led to Daniel Jones not having that big rush, that was another thing. I feel like Daniel Jones played amazing. I feel like all the mistakes was on the guys that weren't him. A lot of the mistakes was just the team being undisciplined. And I feel like, the Giants, even in the fourth quarter, there's just the one play where, they got the interception. And I feel like in that drive, they should have tried to score. They should have really, instead of running the ball, trying to kill the clock. That's a mistake. You got to punch them in their mouth. You got to try to go put the ball in the end zone, not try to waste time. The Giants just made too many mistakes, and they've looked like a team that is a little bit lost and a little bit out of character right now. Saquon still doesn't look himself. He still doesn't look like Saquon, although the offensive line isn't helping him much. But I feel like Washington, and like you said, William Jackson was amazing. The secondary needs a little bit of help, though. Kendall Fuller didn't look right. Them safeties wasn't looking good. Aside from William Jackson, you can't really say anything too good about the secondary right now. That defensive line, of course, is going to be what it is. But with Heinicke, he played great. He played amazing. And I think he should definitely start this year. I don't know what's going to happen after this year, but he has put them in a position where you talk about the Giants being a bad defense right now.
Thank you.
You said the Steelers would be out the top 10.
I did.
And they locked up the Bills.
They did.
And you said the Giants would be in the top 10, and they've given up big games against Denver and a backup QB from what we thought.
Agreed.
So I
know my defense.
Yeah, the Giants aren't looking too hot right now in defense, but Daniel Jones, he played amazing, and so did Heinicke.
You talk about the Giants winning this game more than Washington. Losing this game more than Washington won it, excuse me. I don't disagree with that sentiment completely because let's just talk about this. Giants miscues, special teams offside, which cost them the game, Slayton drop, the hold on the Daniel Jones rushing touchdown. Versus Washington, they had 11 penalties. That's the most under Joe Judge since he's been in New York. And this play stuck out. This drive stuck out to me the most. It's not the 2 runs in a row that Jason Garrett called after the Bradberry interception, even though that was bad play call. And Jason Garrett, to me, I've never been a fan of him as an OC. That wasn't what really I thought gave away the game, because I understand it. He was trying to be conservative and not trying to, get a turnover, because I know Daniel Jones, even though he played a great game, there's still always that, wild card with him. Driving the fourth quarter, Giants were up 23-17. The next drive, it was 23-20. The Giants on 3rd and 5 yards away from the first down. Penalties on Nate Soldier, and Andrew Thomas makes it 3rd and 15.
All starts,
and now they have to settle for a field goal, and they're only up 26-20. In a moment where they could have been up a touchdown with under 8 minutes left in the fourth, these penalties killed their entire drive and the momentum of that drive. I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, after the Giants did kick this field goal and made the game 26-20, Taylor Heinicke scored in 2 plays.
It was crazy.
17 seconds. At that time, at that point in the game, I was watching it and I said, I don't know if Washington can score, this quickly, and because it was with 4 minutes left. I was like, because their offense hasn't been looking that explosive the entire game. And 2 plays later, 17 seconds later, they score a touchdown. I'm like, wow.
And both were impressive passes.
Exactly.
That one to J.D. McKissick was placed perfectly in the zone.
Did that. It's just the back-breaking interception. Like, I'm not saying it's his fault. But it's like you guys, and I understand Daniel Jones has, concerns over turning the ball over. And I get it. You're trying to be conservative. But when are you going to trust in your quarterback to win you the game? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're in the red zone. Daniel Jones has been on fire all game. Why not give him that? You paid Kenny Golladay to be that guy.
I agree with you. Yeah, and Kenny, he didn't play his best game. No. I agree with you with Daniel Jones and trusting him, that part. But this is Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
In Dallas, it wasn't until Kellen Moore took over when Dak Prescott started passing a bunch of times a game. When Jason Garrett was calling the plays, it was, we are going to feed Zeke, and we're going to run this ball, and we are going to be a conservative offense. And with the Giants right now, he's trying to do that with Saquon.
But not really.
But their offensive line just isn't good enough to hold up.
Correct.
So the way he wants to call an offensive game doesn't fit the personnel he currently has.
Agreed.
And another narrative that popped out there was Washington's defense. I don't think their defensive line got much push last night. Chase was getting double-teamed. Montez Sweat was their best pass rusher, in my opinion. And
Jonathan Allen played well as well.
Yeah, and the defense with St. Just, he's a young corner. He's a rookie. He's going to ease into the game more. But I'm not worried. You know, Washington last year, they had 6 games or more where they gave up 30-plus points or more. So it's not like last year their defense was this lock-up team. They had 6 games where they gave up 30 points or more. Mm-hmm. This wasn't over 30. It was at 29 points, but, you know, it's close to it. I'm not worried about Washington's defense, and I'm not worried about the Giants either. I think they have good enough personnel to keep it afloat. The Adoree Jackson, I think, did bolster their secondary. Sure. I don't know about a top 10 defense. I'll say more like top 15.
Last year, I'm pretty sure they were around that top 10. So that's why I figured they added personnel. They would probably
They lost
be
Dalvin Tomlinson, though.
Very
which
true.
Which was huge. And
I found the Terry McLaurin Bradberry stat. So on their previous 3 matchups, McLaurin was held to only 2 receptions, 16 yards, and Bradberry had an interception when Bradberry lined up with McLaurin. But yesterday, he was lined up on 83% of his routes, catching 5 to 7 targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. But he did have an INT.
I mean, I wonder what that was, though. I mean, you know, Bradberry, shout out to him last year. He had a great year.
For sure.
That was the first great corner year of his career.
I agree wholeheartedly.
You know, so I think Terry McLaurin is going to win every matchup going forward.
You think so? Every?
I do think
Would you
so.
say he won specifically yesterday's matchup?
Without a doubt.
But Bradberry did have an amazing, timely interception.
That interception was good.
43 yards.
No, he definitely did his thing on him.
I don't. It was all right.
I mean, exactly. To definitely say he won is.
I mean, no, you can say he definitely won.
He won.
I'm pretty sure all 100 yards were on Bradberry.
No, I just told you.
No, he just told
47.
you 5 receptions, 43 yards.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot, though. That's a lot.
He won. He won the matchup. I wouldn't say definitively, but he won the matchup.
5 receptions, 43 yards. And one of the touchdowns was he
beat him.
When Bradberry was playing outside leverage.
And the ball was behind McLaurin.
But Bradberry got a pick.
Exactly.
So it's like it cancels out the TD.
No.
Yeah, because that was in the clutch.
He got the pick, but he got the pick because I believe it was just Taylor Heinicke. No, Taylor Heinicke he knew he was going with the ball there.
Everybody knew that.
Okay, agreed. But at the same time,
you can't take that away
still
from
had
Bradberry.
an amazing.
That was an amazing catch.
Amazing jump
on the ball.
I
I
feel
like it was on the other receiver, or it was on one of them.
It was McLaurin.
Yeah, running into his guy.
No, McLaurin ran a curl. That was it. That was the route.
No, but he ran into one of his receivers that led the timing of the throw to be off.
I don't think so. But regardless of that fact, it was a really good matchup between the two. McLaurin definitely showed up.
I think McLaurin won this matchup without a doubt.
I mean, fair.
I don't think Bradberry won it.
I'm not saying Bradberry won it. To say definitively he definitely won.
Well, I think it is definitively, though.
I don't know.
So you think it's a tie?
Not a tie, because obviously.
So if it's not a tie, then McLaurin won.
Definitively, though.
He won, but Bradberry made the best play out of both of them.
I think so.
The clutchest play out of both of them.